This is the doomtombpodcast, the podcast for all things stoner, doom, and sludge. And today we've got the return of band member Jake Lewis, and he's going to go over quite a few things. We had him on way back when he was talking about the last release from Burn Ritual. He is also in another project, and we're going to talk about it now. Here he is, Jake Lewis from Gypsybyrd. A while back, I interviewed this guy with another member of another band that he has, and the band that we're going to talk about right now is Gypsybyrd. And the person I have on the phone right now is Jake Lewis. Jake, how you doing today?
What's up, man?
Just trying to figure it out. I honestly, before getting on the phone, I was like, what am I going to do here? So I'm looking through, and usually when I talk, I'll have something to drink, and so I was going to do like an iced tea and vodka or a lemonade and vodka. So I went with the iced tea vodka. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Do you have a drink of choice today, or what are you going with?
Yeah, I'm just going with the old school tried and true Coors Banquet beer, dude. The
yellow can.
The Sam Elliott, repping the Sam Elliott style beer.
Now, let me ask you: do after drinking that, does a mustache immediately grow on you, or?
No, but I do feel more of a man after drinking it.
And how can you not? I mean, honestly, seriously, really.
Yeah.
All right, dude. So let's get into this right away. Now, for those that don't know, Jake is in another band called Burn Ritual, and if I can remember, I'll put a link in the show notes. Otherwise, go back a ways, about a little over a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's so awesome talking to you. It's been like a long time. It seems, I want to say it's going on 2 years, because the last time I spoke to you on the, phone was through the last interview, and that would have been right around the release of Blood of the Raven. So it would have been October so basically this October coming up will be 2 years. So it must have been close to 2 years the last time I talked to you. Yeah.
Man, damn, time flies.
Yeah, It does.
But speaking of flying, I still, to this day, every once in a while, and I've said it on a previous podcast, just recently, Nick from War Cloud and Stonecutters was on, and I said, what a great guy, man. Fantastic dude. And we're just, shooting the shit, and I said, do you ever get one of those feelings where, like, just out of nowhere, you have to say a part of a song or, like, yell it out? And for your band, it's Blood of the Raven, but in that higher pitch that I can't do. So I sound awful.
I've seen a couple of your posts where you put Blood of the Raven. You kind of put the line, and I always chuckle. That always makes me laugh. But I get it. I totally get it.
I can't. I don't know, man. There's something about that. When there's a good hook or a good chorus, you just gotta go with it, and it's. I don't know, man. I feel like an idiot sometimes, especially when I get out of the elevator and I'm singing it in the elevator. And I get out with my dog and I'm like, hey, Raven! And, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? And this poor dog is looking at me like, you're really embarrassing me. Just walk me, will you please? So
that's funny, man.
Let's talk about this latest release from Gypsybyrd.
Sweet.
Why decide to do something else from Burn Ritual?
Well, I think it all started with actually the song, which is the name of the album, Eye of the Sun. I was listening. I mean, I always listen to all kinds of stuff, trying to always grab some kind of influence or vibe off something to kind of mesh into whatever goes on in my mind or whatever. But I was listening to a lot of, heavy psych bands, and just like one band I really like is All Them Witches. I was jamming them a lot, and just kind of got off in a different vibe, I guess. And I wrote that song, Eye of the Sun, and that kind of when I heard it, I was like, played it back a few times, jamming it, and I'm like, wow, I think this is very cool, but I was like, it's definitely not Burn Ritual. I don't hear it as a Burn Ritual jam, you know what I mean? Because when I think Burn Ritual, I think, the heavy guitars, the fuzz, the down tuning, all that stuff. And I like to write, in Burn Ritual, I like to, kind of keep it dark a little bit. And I don't know. I wanted to get on a different wavelength, I guess. And that song kind of just launched it all off. After that, I started kind of writing stuff and not really trying to write an album per se, but a lot of the songs were just catching a vibe, and it was a different vibe. It was a more melodic and, using my voice a little bit differently. And, the guitars aren't as heavy, obviously.
Right.
Everything follows, a lot of the songs actually, believe it or not, I wrote on bass.
Really?
Because in my jam room, or basically it's like a family room vibe, I have guitars all hanging on the wall, but it's a lot easier for me to just grab the bass because it's more of a percussive. You can hear it a little bit more, obviously, when it's not plugged in, and I didn't want to, a lot of times when I come up with something off the top of my head, I don't want to, grab the guitar and have to plug it in and do all the stuff, set everything up. Right. I just wanted to catch the vibe. So I grabbed the bass. And so a lot of the songs kind of, even though I didn't play the bass on the album, that's the one thing I didn't do. I got my buddy Freddie Allen from
Son of Gray.
Son of Gray from Colorado. He used to live here in San Antonio a couple years ago. He was actually in one of my previous bands from before Burn Ritual, King Earth.
Yeah.
He played bass in that band. Yeah. So we have some history. And, right away I was like, man, when I started actually preparing the songs to be finalized and stuff, I was like, man, I would really like, because me and him talk, here and there, try to keep in contact, even though we're obviously different states and stuff like that. But
I hear that being done more and more. There's a band that I'm hoping to interview sometime soon called the Heavy Eyes, and they explain that where they're in different states. Dope. Yeah, they're incredible, and they their latest release is just sick. And they're in different areas, and they all bring it together. Even there's a local band that I'm kind of trying to think of how to word this because I don't know if it's out yet. A band is working with other bands on a label, and it's one person from each band, and they're combining to almost make, I would say, almost like a supergroup.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, I know exactly what. So, did Freddie join you, or was this all over, through like the internet and such?
Yeah, what basically happened was I would, a lot of times I would do the whole song because that's what I usually do. Even in Burn Ritual, I'll sit here and I'll lay out everything, the drums, the bass. I'll just throw it, even if it's scratch tracks that I'll re-record later. I just want to hear it like as a whole. Right. So a lot of times I would record the bass and then I would send it to Freddie and he would listen to it and kind of get his own little thing going on. And then I would send him like all the stems from the tracks so he could put it into his software at his house, and then he would lay the bass tracks, and then he would just send me the bass track alone. And then that's pretty much how we did it. I mean, he took what I would write and he would just take it a step further because he's a really good bass player. He's one of the best bass players that I've played with. He's a really good musician, and I was like, I knew he would take the songs a step further as far as the bass goes, you know what I mean? Because he's like a bass player's bass player,
Right,
like,
just flesh it out more.
I can do some stuff on bass, but it's definitely not my strongest instrument, I guess you would say. So he did a lot of cool little noodle things in there. You can hear him on a lot of the songs, little fills, and it was really cool.
Absolutely, and we're going to get into those songs. Just cool. Before we get into all of them, who's doing? Because I hear a lot of keyboard. Who's doing that?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, I played everything on there except for the bass guitar. That's what Freddie did, but everything else, yeah. And I've been trying to put, I'm not some crazy keyboard or piano guy. I just really know chords and stuff like that, and I can do little things here and there. But obviously, I just like to add it to the music to give it a little bit more weight. And I'm trying to add a little bit more to Burn Ritual too, believe it or not. Because even with the heavy guitars and stuff, I think there's spots in the music where you can add some synth or something cool,
absolutely.
Yeah. And like on the song Mountain from the Gypsybyrd album, it's really heavy. I mean, you can hear a lot of synths going on and just a lot of different electronic stuff. And
I would say that was probably the heaviest of all the tracks.
I know, and I remember talking to Freddie, and I was trying to get his input, and I would say, hey, man, what do you think as far as track listings, like what songs should come? And I'd said, this is what I'm thinking, and he would but ultimately he kind of went with what I thought, because, he was like, oh, it's your vision and stuff like that, and I was like, well, he originally wanted Mountain. He said Mountain should go first, and I go, dude, I don't know, because I was like, to me, that's the heaviest song.
Right.
On the thing, and I was like, I kind of see it as being like the ending of the album, because I kind of wanted people to hear a different side of my songwriting, and I was thinking, I love Mountain. I think it's great that it's got that heavy vibe, but I was like, I wanted to kind of put obviously Prisoner ended up being the first song, and that's what I really wanted to put on there to kind of showcase that, it's kind of a ride in a different vibe than Burn Ritual or anything else that I've done in the past.
Well, what I got is I get this like retro desert psych rock, really.
Right.
And the way you layered it, the way you layered the album to me, for those out there that might take a smoke every once in a while, it's a great fucking album to do too, because you get the whole album leads up and up and up and up, and then it's the beauty of this is it's immediately re-listenable. Is that even a word? You can listen to it over and over again, and there's just this, there's such a connection. I don't know if it's something in your heart or what have you. I feel like you have such a connection with the earth, and even looking on the Bandcamp page, you have this kind of backgroundish thing of the mountains with a red hot sun, and I totally get that, especially on Eye of the Sun, and we'll get into that. How about we start? You want to start with The Prisoner?
Yeah, let's do it.
What can you tell me about The Prisoner? Well,
first of all, I appreciate everything you just said, man. That was really cool to lay it out like that, and I appreciate that. Prisoner, that song was important to me, and I thought it would be the best choice to lead off the album because, like you said, there's things in there like the keyboards, and I always love that middle part where it drops off and it's just the keyboards by itself. Like, right. I always love that part, not to sound like somebody that's like shitting on, getting all like crazy on their own music. I'm just saying, when I recorded it, I was really tripping out on it because I was like, man, that keyboard right there reminds me of something from, like you said, from the past. And, I don't know if Gypsybyrd was meant to, I don't know if to me, it was more natural than trying to do something on purpose. In other words, like, I think, I enjoy listening to a lot of 70s music now, and I've been turned on by a lot of 70s stuff, either by somebody sending me something, like one of the bloggers or somebody will say, hey, man, check this out. Like,
what are you getting
Steve
into?
Oh, just random stuff. Like, I can't even think of stuff off my head. Of course you could name all the big Blue Oyster Cult and all that, but what I'm saying is more underground stuff. Like, it's hard to even remember some of their names because there's so much. Obviously now with the internet, it's great because you're you can find so much music, even if it's from the past. There's tons of playlists on YouTube that are like, 70s worship or 70s rock or 70s psych rock or whatever.
There's a ton of them.
Yeah, and then it's like all these obscure bands you've never heard of, you know what I mean? It's like it could be some garage band that was jamming back in the 70s that just never made it, but they made an album or they made a 7-inch or something, and somebody threw it on YouTube, and it's like really badass. But no, to go back, I got off on the little thing. But Prisoner, the song is, the lyrics really connect because, I like to write a lot about, mind stuff. And basically the song's just really about like, when you're trying to, it's hard to put it in words like the way I'm trying to think it in my mind. But anyways, it's about, when you're trying to, oh man, you're gonna have to edit this out.
No, it's okay, man. Go ahead.
Because I had it in my head, and then I kind of got off and thinking about something else, and it threw me off. But
all right, well,
you might have to. I think the last time we did the burn ritual, there was a couple edits, right?
Maybe a few. It's all right though. It's no big deal. So, all right, here's the thing. So I'll put this out as far as Prisoner. I got this feeling of, and I this is the first thing I wrote down. It's like I'm just high enough to start looking around and seeing what I didn't notice before.
Well, that's badass. I mean, that's great, and that's the fucking awesome thing about music, right? Is that everybody's got their own interpretation of whatever, and but yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of vibe. Like basically, I think ultimately the song's more about, like, to me, it's more about when you're trying to do something, like, a lot of people say, well, maybe I could do that one day, whatever said thing it is.
Right.
But like, if you never do it, in other words, you got to get to doing it or else you might miss your chance, kind of thing. And
is that where the prisoner comes in? Like, you're prisoner to your own limitation?
Well, what I was going to say is just, sometimes people have fears of doing whatever said thing or, whatever. And, prisoner of your mind, kind of deal. All that kind of stuff. I mean, who knows? I mean, when I was writing the lyrics, it's one of those songs, I don't know, it just kind of flowed out. So that was good. When I write songs, I try not to. I heard somewhere one time that Hank Williams was like, well, if you can't write a song within 5 minutes, you should throw it out, or, right. So it's like, I like to catch a vibe, and if it doesn't happen pretty soon, it's like, well, but Prisoner to me was a really easy song to write. It just kind of came out of nowhere, really. It just start with a riff, and then it just kind of took off from there. But it's one of my favorite ones from the album, and that's why I wanted to lead off, I
gotcha. And we're going to go into the next track, which is from the title, Eye of the Sun. I got this kind of like, it's hot out, and maybe this is all just because I'm in Arizona, because I got to tell you, when I fucking lived in Florida, it was humid as I had bat wing for days, and it's like, it's a different heat out here, but I feel this thing, and there's some kind of, for me, I feel more of a nature connection out here. And when I heard Eye of the Sun, actually, I also just played it not too long before we started talking for my wife, because I'll get into that later. But it's like, I get to the top. I'm overlooking the top of at the top of a mountain in this Eye of the Sun. It's such a beautiful, gorgeous track, and it gives me that deeper connection personally with nature. Like tomorrow, I want to go out on a hike. I want to get to the highest point, look around, and blare out some Gypsybyrd.
Dude, that's badass. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I am. You said earlier, Earth and all that, connected to the Earth. Like, I totally feel that, like, I mean, if you look back at most of my stuff, there's either, even going back to, I had a band called Scissorjack, and we put out one album, and, it's got a wolf on it kind of howling up into the sky with some stars in the background and stuff. And,
right.
I mean, you got the Raven thing with the Burn Ritual album, and then this one's kind of got, Gypsybyrd, I got an owl on there, but it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's not going to be an owl, I guess, all the time. But, the name of the project wasn't meant to be like over an owl. I just was like, man, there's got to be something, like that is the cover. Because, yeah, I mean, nature, earth, that's what it's all about to me. Like, I do catch a lot of influence off stuff like that. And Eye of the Sun is, to me, it's kind of like one of those songs about just appreciating Mother Nature, because, with everything that's going on right now, it's, you got to appreciate it even more. And kind of just like, not like it's kind of got that vibe of like, don't pollute the earth ad or something like that. But no, it's more of a personal thing, but kind of with that whole vibe, though, just to appreciate, the earth and take care of it and all that good stuff, And
just seeing the beauty of it all. I let me ask you this, just as a side. So, Jake, do you ever go down a YouTube rabbit hole? Yes or no?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. Like, I went through this rabbit hole recently, and I don't know why it's in my head, but I need to create an ecosphere of some kind. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen these things. They're like little globes, and they have some plants and etc. And there's like these brine shrimp that are in it, and it's like a self-sustaining ecosystem in this little globe. And I was going on YouTube and just looking at pages and pages and videos of people making their own ecosystem, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because it's just, you can't believe when you watch the video and people are getting this little bit of water and this bit of mud and etc. And you're like, well, it's just a little mud, man. It's just a little water. But you take it home and it settles, and then all of a sudden, and I've seen it in a few videos, you see the little critters coming out and the crabs coming out, and it's like, basically what I'm saying is there's life everywhere, and if you just take that chance to go out and take a look around, you'd be really amazed at what's out there. And that's kind of what like I was getting from Eye of the Sun, and it sounds like you're pretty much on that same path. Yeah, it sounds, that's totally right, man. I mean, it's got that whole vibe, and the whole album, I think, was centered around that track. Like I said earlier, that track kind of set the whole project up, right.
Because like I said, having Burn Ritual is like an outlet for heavy, super, in your face heaviness. Like, I needed another outlet personally, because writing, I have so much music, like I'm always writing, I try to write as much as possible. I don't write all the time. Obviously I got kids and stuff, but
sure.
I try as much as possible, and I just try to complete songs. And Eye of the Sun just was basically the song that started the whole project. And I guess it's the most important song.
If you were to make a song based on what your kids were interested in, what would it be? Wow.
Well, my oldest, which he's, only 5.5, but he's like super into Ryan's World and this kind of crazy stuff, the YouTube stuff, I don't let him watch TV all day long or anything, but I let him watch his good share of TV. And especially right now, I mean, we're all home because of the COVID-19 thing, but,
right.
So he's probably watching TV more than usual, but like, yeah, he likes all that kind of stuff, like video game stuff. He doesn't really play video games, but, you know, obviously on YouTube, there's everything. And I don't even know, you know, kids catch such a vibe now that's so different than me, because I try to show them like the stuff I grew up on. I'm like, check out G.I. Joe, check this out. And it's like, nah, they're not into it. And then
wait a minute, he's not into G.I. Joe even with the Kung Fu grip?
No, dude. Like, you know, they got into He-Man for a while. Actually, it was cool. He like, because my wife, got, you know, my wife had He-Man. She had She-Ra too, obviously, but she had He-Man action figures, and her mom had saved them all these years. So we got them a couple of years ago. And I was like, cool. I was like, man, let's make a display for my son, you know, my son's room. I was like, let's put them on the shelf, have them like they're all lined up.
Right.
Because it was a bunch. It was like a bunch. It wasn't just like few characters. Like we had almost all the characters, you know, it was dope. We had the Battle Cats and Panther and all this stuff. And so they were into the cartoons. Even my youngest, you know, he's like 3.5 now, and he got into it. But, you know, they get after, you know, they have their own stuff. And my youngest is into like anything that has to do with, you know, Blippi or something like that. I don't even know if you know what that is. But
I have no idea what is that is. What is Blippi?
That's actually, believe it or not, another YouTube thing. Like, he started out doing YouTube kids stuff on YouTube, like a show, but it's on YouTube, and like I guess just viewership just shot to the roof, and now he's huge. Like, he has a contract with Amazon, and like he has his own dolls and like
holy shit
clothing. And
you're
stuff.
Not lying,
like,
dude. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
Blippi has 8.16 million subscribers.
Dude.
And all right, so it's a guy with suspenders and like orange glasses and like a blue and orange hat.
Yeah, he.
So it's like it's kind of like a children's show.
Yeah, it is basically. It's just he did it, and you know, started out humble, I guess, humble beginnings, and now he's got like professional crew and all this crazy stuff. You know, whatever.
Wow. Can you? Imagine if 8.16 million people were listening to Gypsybyrd. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Do you think maybe there will be a like a collab between Jake Lewis and Blippi anytime soon?
No.
You're not going there? All right. Just figured I'd throw it out on the table. You know, you never know, man.
Yeah.
You never know. So let's get into the next track. This was actually a track that I was really interested in right off the bat as I first heard this back when the release came out. Cosmic Eyes, dude.
Yeah.
There is something going on. There was like, maybe I was just hearing something, but there's like an underlying note in that song at a certain part.
Well, yeah. I mean, you mean the meaning of the song, or how I? Because that's what I thought you meant. You mean an actual
sound?
Oh, okay. No, I don't know. The song in general is funny because I remember a friend of mine telling me a story way back in the day about this movie with Christopher Walken, I think, is in it. It's an alien movie. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Oh, man. But it's an old flick. I think it's from the 80s. They made quite a few different, like part 1, part 2. I can't remember the name of the movie. But anyways, he told me the story one time, and I had never even seen the movie, mind you. But he told me, and the way he told the story, it felt like I had seen the movie, but he was telling me, yeah, there's this part, man, where he's like in bed, and you know, he kind of looks through the door and there's a crack, and then all of a sudden you see the fucking eyeball of the alien or whatever, and it's like all freaky. And I was like, man, that just stuck with me. And then I finally saw the movie years later or whatever, and it was cool, but the effect wasn't as good as the story. But the song is basically kind of centered around a story like that. What if there was a creature, you know? And it's basically just a trip out song, like somebody that would be tripping out on something like that, you know? wondering if there was some kind of weird alien, or it doesn't even have to be an alien, some kind of person at the bed or whatever, at the footstep of the bed or whatever. And
was it the prophecy?
Yeah, I think it was the prophecy. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
But the song in general, actually, that was supposed to be a burn ritual song, but for one reason or another, it just didn't really end up being a burn ritual song. I probably because it is just not as heavy. I mean, but it's cool. I mean, I always loved that one. I love the riff. It's kind of got that clutchy kind of riff going on thing, with the drums kind of funky a little bit. But and
I like how you can separate. I like how you can say that like this is a burn ritual song. I'll put this over here. And this is a Gypsybyrd song. I'll put this definitely over here.
Right. Well, it just happens that way. I mean, I guess it could have been a burn ritual song. Probably.
Right.
It probably would have been okay, sandwiched between two songs. But it ended up being a Gypsybyrd song, which I think it fits a lot better and gives the album right there in the middle kind of a different swing or whatever.
Absolutely. No, this is a Gotta Get Away. It's like it's part of the journey, and this is just a part of the album. And I think I'm telling you, man, I can't tell you enough about how listenable this is. You know how some things are so stark, and you're like, yeah, I gotta listen to it. I'll listen to it once a day, maybe only at night, maybe 1 a.m. in the morning because that's the time I feel it. This music here, I could listen to it at 2 in the morning. I could listen to 2 in the afternoon. It flows with so many different directions of life. I really can't tell you how. I've wanted to talk to you for a while about this. I know, work and life and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful that you're able to give me some actual insight to these tracks. What can you actually tell me about the next track, which is "Gotta Get Away"?
That one, I needed one more song. What happened was, and it's cool that you brought
"Gotta Get Away." No.
Yeah, I needed one more song to fill an album full of music.
Okay.
And it's definitely, it's not the last song, but it was the last song I wrote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I was going to circle back to what you said, too. It's crazy about what you said about the album being listenable at different times. Like, that's exactly what Freddie said when he first started hearing the music I was sending him. He was like, dude, this is badass. And I remember talking to him about the struggles of, because I was like, man, I really want to put it out on vinyl. And I was telling them that the only bad thing is it's so expensive. If you don't have a label backing you, you basically have to fork over like, at least $1,600,
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Yeah. At least that's what I paid for the Burn Ritual records. But, so it's a big investment to throw down right away. Like, obviously if you sell 80 or 90 of them priced at whatever, $20 or give or take, you get your money back. But I guess to throw out so much money right away. But he was like, dude, he goes, man, don't worry about it. He's like, let's just, you should just put it out on CD and digital, obviously at the beginning, and see what happens. He's like, I think this music is different than Burn Ritual because, not just people that are into doom or stoner or retro rock or anything like that might be into this. Like, it's a little bit more accessible, I guess he was trying to say, for people that are into a lot of different things. So I was just, going, but the song in general, catching a vibe. I'm big into Brant Bjork and bands that have that super bluesy, obviously, like you said, desert sound, and but also coupled with bands like Lenny Kravitz and stuff like that, like Black Crowes. I'm really into the Black Crowes, so I wanted a song that was like a rocker, but
you got a
little bit
groove.
Funky, laid back, Yeah. So that's where that song came from, just catching that vibe. Like I said, I probably repeated that probably 4 or 5 times already since we started the interview. But, that's all it is, catching a vibe, catching a little influence, turning your own thing into it, your own spin into whatever. And that's kind of where that song came up. But like I said, it was the last song that was written for the album, because I had the album laid out and there was another track that was supposed to be on the record. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It doesn't matter, but it didn't end up making it, because I thought when I was listening to all the tracks, I was like, this one's good, but I was like, it doesn't sound like it's ready enough. Like I knew I was going to have to spend more time on it, but Gotta Get Away just kind of came out of nowhere, and it was really easy to write. And I was like, bam, I remember sending a text to Freddie. I was like, okay, this is the last song, I got it, and he was like, cool. And because I wanted to make an album at first, I just wanted to do like a 3-song EP, but I think Freddie, once again bringing him up, he actually might have talked me out of that, because he was like, dude, let's just do a full album. And because I guess he was saying like more people probably especially on the YouTube and stuff like that, because automatically your band usually gets dumped in one of the YouTube full album things where the stoner and doom. And so he was like, man, I don't think they're really interested in EPs. And so I was like, yeah, let's just make a full album, and that's what ended up happening. But I'm proud of all the songs. I think they all fit together, and made a good, like you said, like a journey. I always strive to do that, especially when I'm doing the track listing. I'm like, what would I do if I was trying to put, I'm sure you remember, we all did that. You might still do that, is make playlists.
I remember burning all that shit.
Yeah, I remember burning CDs, and like I found a bunch of those, believe it or not. I used to have one of those big, gigantic folder things with the plastic. You know what I'm talking about? Those plastic.
That's how I have all my CDs held right now.
Well, I used to have one of those I would take with me, and it was a big one, like huge one. And I remember struggling with that thing because it was so heavy. But I found it like last week, and because I've been moving a lot of stuff around, and I found it, and I was going through all the shit I used to listen to probably like in the early 2000s, probably like 90s. And I had a hell of a lot of playlists, man.
Oh, no doubt. I went through a bunch. So, okay. Yeah, that's another thing. Some of us might have been home, or, a few days here and there that we've taken off because of everything going on. Yeah. If I had, this is a Skype call for those who don't know. And if I had the camera on right now, Jake, you would see the crap load behind me on this second bedroom bed, because I'm, taking apart all the closets and rescheduling and just reorganizing everything. And when you were talking CDs, I still will buy a CD if that's all the band has. But over the past probably 2 years now, I have, and it kind of gets me because it's an interesting space. I finally got back into vinyl.
Yeah, and that's the struggle. Like, I've noticed, everybody wants vinyl now. And I know why. It's great, it's a great, there's nothing like, believe it or not, I had a turntable, and then I had gotten rid of it because I was like, man, I don't have a lot of money just to be throwing down on records all the time, because some of them could be like $30 a piece, and I'm like, man, so I wasn't really using it that much. But then just recently, a couple days ago, actually, I picked up another one, a cheapie. But I was like, man, I need a turntable in the house just to, I couldn't even play my own freaking record because I didn't have a turntable. I remember when the Burn Ritual Blood of the Raven came out, I remember all freaking 200 of them showed up in my doorstep, and I was like, cool, but I was like, man, I can't even freaking jam this right now. Like, I had to go to a friend's house, to jam it. And
that's when you take the record
Yeah.
And you go to the local Best Buy, you go to the high fidelity area, and you say, so I'm looking for something really good, and you put it on one of those record players, and the sound is going to be incredible, and you'll get to hear it. And so will the whole place, as throngs of people come over and says, oh my God, what's that fantastic music? Oh, that's Burn Ritual. I happen to know the people in the band. And
that would be a great idea, man. But no, it didn't happen that way, and that sucks. But like what I was saying, though, everybody wants vinyl. It's the first thing I always get asked, like, especially when the Gypsybyrd stuff dropped. I had a lot of people messaging me, oh, when's the vinyl coming out? And I'm like, unfortunately, it really hurts me to say it, but I'm like, man, I wish I could get this to these, to the people. But, like what happened with us with the last Burn Ritual album was, Curse Monk from Ireland actually put out the CD of Blood of the Raven, which was cool. And we're still friends with those dudes and stuff, but it was a one contract thing. And then I had who was it? South Cave, I think, Records do the cassette version of Blood of the Raven. But then everybody was asking for vinyl, and I was like, man, kind of in a rock and a hard place. But the band, we were playing shows, and we saved up enough money. We made pretty good amount of money at our the album release show, and then basically after that I just took sales from like digital and stuff. So unfortunately we had to put the blood of the Raven vinyl unfortunately came out like I want to say like 5 or 6 months after the actual release, but it got there. But anyways, going back to Gypsybyrd, I got a lot of people hitting me up about that, and I'm like, man, I'm still trying to make it happen, believe it or not. But if it doesn't happen, I'm still for sure on the next Gypsybyrd release, there'll be a vinyl.
I'll tell you what, Jake, let's talk about that after, okay?
Okay.
I got an idea. I got a few ideas.
Okay.
So, because I love this material, and I think it needs to be to more people.
Right.
What can you tell me about the quest for the Enlightened One?
That one, man, that song, I was probably getting pretty stoned one night.
What a surprise. Gee.
Yeah, that song came out of nowhere, and it was just one of those builders, man. Like, you just start laying one thing down, another, and it just built and built. There's a lot, actually. If you were to see the actual, DAW and the software was brought up on my computer, you could actually see all the, sounds. There's a lot of sounds on that.
I love it.
And just the vibe, the lyrics, I wanted to write as if I was kind of like, I watch sci-fi movies and stuff and just random stuff all the time. And sometimes I think, when I'm writing lyrics, I'm like, what if I was telling a story, or if I was, if it was a movie kind of thing, so that song was basically about just like a space kind of, almost like a romance in space, actually, between a woman and a man or whoever. But basically my idea was it would be worshiping, some lady in space. And that's kind of where the lyrics are kind of about, like, but I remember writing that and hearing it the next day and being like, whoa, that's heavy, it's kind of weird, but, it's totally cool. Like, I wanted to, have one of those, I call it slow jam, but it's not like a more mellow, kind of like what I did on the Burn Ritual, Blood of the Raven, where I did a slower jam in the middle, because I always loved when albums had even if they were heavy albums, like always liked the middle part if they threw in like a little trippy jam or something like that, just to kind of break it up. Yeah. So that's where that song came from, man. It just kind of built from there, and
it feels real. I got this, like, maybe were you using tambourine in there? Was that it? Was that the sound I heard?
Yeah.
Okay, because
it was tambourine, and a little shaker too, actually.
Yeah, it has that, and it's funny because if you didn't have that, I might say something different, but I would say it's got this like native feel to it, like very tribal. But if you're saying like, even if as you're telling me that it could be this man, woman, or whoever relationship, there's like this connection and there's this dance. It's like the dance of whatever they're about to do next,
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, I like to write, when I'm writing lyrics, try to keep it open a little bit, not just point out, like, try to keep it open as far as I can for a listener to kind of make their own kind of vibe going on. Like you already said earlier on one of the other songs, you drew your own, and that's what's badass about. That's what I love about music, man. Is that the listener has their own interpretation of things sometimes, like whether it's the lyrics or the song or the emotion of the song or whatever, like a piano part or whatever. And that's an awesome thing, so kind of keep it open. Like I said, yeah, it's about that space kind of. I always try to throw, like you said, nature, space, whatever, trying to keep it kind of trippy, but still on a vibe where, and like going back, like on Burn Ritual, some songs I don't believe I could kind of, like, that's Gypsybyrd, was kind of brought together just to kind of throw in a different vibe where you can do stuff that you can't do in your other band, or what I think I can't do, but some people might say, well, you can do that, but I don't think, I like to keep things, if it doesn't feel right, if it feels different, then it needs to be a new thing, you know what I mean? Absolutely.
Now, and with these songs that you've created with Gypsybyrd, if you were on stage, I could see these songs easily doubling,
yeah,
adding so much to them or repeating the same riff or whatever, because they're so worthy of being repeated,
Well, that's awesome. Thank you.
The Mountain, which is what we had talked about earlier, is probably like the heaviest track on the release. What can you tell me about it?
Heavily influenced by, I love bands like Acid King and bands like that really throw the whole open. Acid King, what's her name? Lori, the singer, I think is her name.
Oh, geez, I don't know.
Yeah, such a great, I always loved the way she layered her voice with the reverbs and all that. I mean, I'm assuming that's what she does. Who knows what she does in the studio, but
right.
I tried to catch a vibe like that, like
yes,
just
Lori.
a real.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, Lori. Yeah,
I apologize.
Just trying to get a real builder, like in. I like the way, that's probably where the Mountain came from, but the lyrics kind of have their own subject matter, but like it does build like a mountain. The whole song does, like the beginning. I call it I remember telling Freddie about it. I'd call it the Guns N' Roses style drum beat with a doom ka, like the Paradise City doom ka doom ka. Like it's got that vibe, like building, and then I always loved, bands like Sepultura and stuff that used a lot of drums and tribal kind of feel. And I think I layered like 3 different drums. I layered my drum kit like 3 different times, I think, to build that whole thing and make it sound as big as it does. But the other thing about that song was it's a lot of... that's a lot of me exploring a lot of different things. Like you can hear there's a lot of stuff going on, like probably me learning a lot of things, and just adding it to a song. And but yeah, it's definitely the heaviest jammer on there, and that's why I thought it was great to finish the album off with that jam, just to kind of just like a big exclamation point for the album, I guess you could say.
Did it give you anything? Did it teach you anything that for something that you might want to do on another release?
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember Freddie hitting me back right when he heard that song, and he was like, "Dude, this song is fucking rad, and this is like totally, you know, up my alley and stuff." Because I know he's into a bunch of different stuff. I don't want to pigeonhole him, but he does like bands like Tool and stuff like that, and bands that throw like a little electronica in there. And so he was really excited about it. He was excited about playing bass on it. And I had thrown, like I said earlier, some scratch bass on there. But what he ended up doing was really added to the song, especially in that build up at the beginning with the drums. What I did originally is totally different than what he ended up doing. So he really threw in a really cool vibe on there. And but yeah, it taught me just... who knows, you know what I mean? I guess if you listen to that song, if you were to listen to the album backwards, you might think that it's a totally different... I mean, I think all the songs go together. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like they do. But I do believe that song is a little bit different than all the other songs. It's obviously heavier, but there, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of underlying synths and stuff, and just stuff to make the music sound a little bit more electronica, I guess.
Right.
I hate to use that word, but you know what I mean, like machiney, I guess. I don't know.
I totally understand. You know, look, hey, we've said it 1,000 times over. There's so much room for all of it, and why not bring in a blend of a little bit of something here, a little bit of something there. You never know what's going to stick, you know?
Yeah, and totally agree, man. It's I'm glad it ended up being the last song. When I listened to that, I haven't listened to the record in a while, but I mean, I've been doing a lot of recording for the next, you know, Burn Ritual stuff. But like when I was jamming the album, especially when I was trying to make the set list, you know, I did the whole drive around in your car thing, because that's the way I like to get in the car and throw the record on there and just kind of test it. And because I remember I still do this. Like especially when I was younger, I used to love just getting in the car and just driving and just jamming to a record. You know what I mean?
That is the litmus test for a great album. And funny enough, like I was telling you earlier, I don't remember on or off mic, but I was just finishing up another episode. I put it out and I was like, oh, you know, I was talking to my wife. I was like, I got to go downstairs. I got to go in the car and turn it on and listen to it to make sure it sounds okay. That's exactly what I do. I mean, I listen to it in my headphones. I listen to it without headphones and go in the car. And sometimes I still screw it up, but that's okay. Whatever. It happens.
Yeah, I do that all the time, you know, like, especially when I'm mixing songs. Like, I'm like, boom, I hear it enough in the headphones. I hear it on my studio monitors, whatever. Like, I'll hear it even on an Alexa or somebody. And, you know, the little speaker things in my house, but like trying to hear what they sound like on different sources. But the ultimate thing is the car, man. Like, still go back to that, dude. Like, I have so much fond memories of just driving around, and especially like going to the record stores back in the day and buying a CD or whatever and just popping it in, and boom, you know, he's driving around for an hour and a half jamming a record, you know?
Dude, there's something about that. Now, I'll ask you this question. I'll tell you mine, and then maybe it'll give you... I'm looking for the song that you played. Did you have a car when you were a senior in high school?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'm going to ask you for a second the song that you listened to as you were driving away from graduation or driving out of that school. I remember mine clear as day because it was like my first car, and it was Running with the Devil by Van Halen, and I was cranking the shit out of it. What was your song?
I do remember the song, dude, believe it or not, and it was Primal Scream from Motley Crue.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was a big Crue. I mean, I still am, but I was
not be.
Yeah, I was a big Crue fan, and I had the Decade of Decadence CD, and like that song I think is like one of the last songs in the album. Yeah. And I always loved Tommy Lee's drums on the album. Like not that album, I mean that song, such a ripper, dude. And I don't know, it always felt like one of those songs, like if I was to have an 80s movies, like, you know, how the freaking, what is it? Breakfast Club has the
montage.
Don't You Forget About Me jam at the end, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, man, in my own probably head, you know, just thinking, oh, you know, what would I jam right now or something? So I don't know, it just came out of nowhere. But yeah, I still remember it. And that's funny how you remember yours, probably the same way, you know, just it was a pivotal moment in our lives, I guess, you know.
It's like the start of the next chapter.
There you go.
It completely is. So, hey, thanks for letting me know about all the tracks finally. We finally got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask who does the artwork, but I already know that guy that does the artwork. So, why? So, and it's you. So, why did you choose what you chose?
I was struggling because, you know, I mean, I guess album covers have always been important, but I believe even more so now since most people are either getting their internet online or really that's it, you know. I mean, obviously the stoner and doom community is freaking strong, you know, and it's a niche kind of thing, but it's really strong. And I knew that there was a possibility that it might get on, you know, some blogs and YouTube or whatever. So I was like, man, the album cover's got to be something that's good and kind of catches somebody's eye, because I know I would go, I bring up YouTube again. I seem like I keep doing that, but I mean, it's not like I'm always watching YouTube, but I do watch YouTube a lot. And sometimes I do get my musical. I mean, I remember us talking last time about Mephistofeles, and, you know, that's how I heard that band. So I do get a lot of bands that I find out about through YouTube. I guess it's not the greatest source, you know. Audiophiles out there would probably say, oh, you know, you're listening to bands off YouTube, you know, it's a poor quality or whatever. But I think as long as you're getting the influence or whatever, getting the, you know, discovering a cool band, you know, you can buy their CD or whatever and listen to it in the best quality possible, you know. But going back to what we're saying, just what were we talking about? I got lost. Just
the artwork. Just how did you come up with the artwork?
Yeah. Sorry, shit.
That's all right.
No, the artwork, you know, and first of all, I was like, man, I wanted to have something that was orange, you know, because, and that's the other thing, you know, the artwork thing. I like messing around with, you know, doing art and digital files and messing up with manipulation of things. And I've always done that, you know, going back to when I used to make flyers way back in the day, dude. For my early bands, like going back to like, seems like before 99, you know, 98, something like that, when you had Photoshop and different things like that, and first discovering that kind of stuff. And so I just, you know, really enjoy doing that as much as not as much, but I mean, it's a part of the music. I think the image of the album and stuff like that plays an important role. So I really struggled. I had one thing that I thought was like the thing, and I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be it. But then I ended up looking at it for a while, and I was like, no, I'm not really catching that. And
right.
I did want to have something that looked like it might possibly be from like the 70s or late 60s or something like that. Like I wanted something that kind of went with the idea of the songs and kind of the whole
and the color scheme as well.
Everything.
Yeah.
So. No, and then like I said earlier, the Gypsybyrd, you know, I was like, man, it's Gypsybyrd. I was like, it would be cool if it had some kind of bird on it. And I remember going back and forth with different things, but the owl ended up being the thing. And I liked it because it was simplistic, you know, just had the face, you know, not a whole lot of things going on, and really just took it from there. I didn't know whether or not it would be eye-catching. I still don't know, but to me, that's what I was going.
Jake and I talked for such a long time that I think it'd be best to put this in two parts. So the first part, we went over Gypsybyrd, Burn Ritual, and a few other things as well. Let's hear a track from Gypsybyrd. And then coming up, part 2. This is Eye of the Sun. doomtombpodcast@gmail.com. Doomtombpodcast on all forms of social media. That is how to get in contact with us. We've got part 2 coming up and a lot more interviews. Thank you so much for listening. Craniumradio.com. Don't forget the Doom Tomb Sundays, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll hear all the finest in stoner, doom, sludge, psych, whatever we got, we're going to throw it on. Get in the chat room if you got a request, and we have it. We'll play it. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves and enjoy yourselves. And till next time, don't forget to stay heavy.